Be the most agile. Be the best. Everybody is looking out for excellence. You two are looking out for excellence in whoever you meet. No one wants to go with a mediocre. And I hate to say this, I hate to be blunt about it. The credit belongs to the man in the arena. Like I said, start. Start today. Figure out who you are. Figure out what you can do for a very long time and how you can monetize it. To get where you have to go, you have to work twice as hard to get half as much, especially when you're starting without advantage. You have to drop that pride, be aggressive, be excellent. One thing I will tell you in business, you're not going to succeed if there is pride. Business and pride don't move in the same.
We are raising a generation that's burnt out, broke, and chasing degrees that don't serve them. If you're a young adult trying to navigate the maze of building a career, securing your wealth, and keeping your mind healthy, you are in the right place. My vision for this platform has always been that we elevate our communities by showing up for each other. And today, I have someone who shows up in a very big way. My guest today is Anthea Iwembe. She is the co-founder and COO of a major manufacturing company in Uganda, Apati. Not only that, but she is also a Mandela Washington Fellow on top of being a champion for women in business. She looked at her journalism degree and she pivoted. In this episode, we are going to talk about innovation required to change your life, why your wealth is useless if you're too sick to enjoy it, how you protect your peace in a noisy world, especially today, and why your degree isn't something that defines your destiny, and the uncomfortable truth about what it takes to lead in 2026. This conversation is a wake-up call for you. So grab a cup of coffee or tea wherever you are and join us in conversation because we need to talk. Anthea, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad to have you on. What's something you are so grateful for today?
I'm grateful for a good night's sleep, lovely weather. All day it's been super lovely. An even better workout because I was able to have a good night's sleep. A good salad I made, and generally the gift of life and the gift of a good brain, a good body, a healthy body. This is what I mean. Yeah.
Uh, what have you needed to talk about in the longest time and you haven't had chance to talk about it?
What have I been meaning to talk about in the longest time?
Yeah.
I talk about everything I would like to talk about, honestly. I would say I'm constantly in conversation with people, with strangers, with people who already know me. So I'm ever exchanging ideas. So I wouldn't say there's anything that's burning, burning. No, everything I would like to say, I express. But maybe that's because I have a lovely community of people who listen to me, both old and new friends and colleagues, peers, and a really lovely community of people who listen.
Nice. Anthea, if someone walks to you in the streets and they know nothing about innovation and startup businesses, they ask you what you do and how you do it, how would you respond to that?
I would say I wake up in the morning, I sigh, and I say it's another day, another dollar, either to make it or to spend it. Um, but yeah, different days come with different challenges when you're innovating. And I don't think there is one blanket thing I would say. I would also just say, I think to answer your question, I would say start now, start where you are with whatever tools you have. And I know it's a cliche, but then start now and ask for as much help as you can. And I would say one thing that I came across last week, um, the universe rewards audacity. So use your audacity and ask what you need to ask. Do what you have to do. If you feel that you belong in an innovation space or in an industry, then you 100% belong there. Just be audacious. Yeah.
You have a journalism degree, but running a tech company. For the graduate feeling like that degree is useless, what's the skill from university you actually use every day?
Analytical skills. I would tell you much of business is assessing risk, assessing, you know, human resource to see if they will do for you what you need it done. but it's also relationship management. This is very crucial in journalism and communication, which is what I studied. So I wouldn't say it's useless. It's where I learned to make sense of the world, in ask the right questions, know what kinds of questions to ask, read the room, because a journalist knows how to read the room, um, and also research to seek as much information as possible. But also, journalism gives you confidence. So there isn't a single office I can say that I would walk to and try to look for a piece of information and fail to find this, because this is something we learned in journalism school and I have carried along with me into business.
Nice. Um, for someone who's just listening in and they're listening to this brilliant lady speak about these things, and they want to know, who is she really? Who is this brilliant lady who's talking about all these brilliant things? Who's Anthea? Where does she come from? How did she get here where she is?
Well, I'm really just me. I wouldn't say there are words that can describe this. I would say my story is not very unique to, I mean, it could be unique, but it's also not so unique. I am a girl who was given a good education, a good childhood, and presented with fair opportunities, and then given the option to take them. But if you're maybe looking to assess me in terms of personality, it would be I'm very free and open minded, in the sense that I leave room for uncertainty, and this is my daily experience. Um, I would say, in spite of being a business person and an innovator, I would consider myself a creative in the innovation space, because a lot of what we do is recipe formulation, even though it's not creativity in the sense that you, Amon, are doing it. It's creativity in the sense of formulation. So um, I live a very simple, quiet, private life, and I like it like that. And just as well, even in business, I like to do my work, because nobody gets into manufacturing because they want to be seen. We get into manufacturing because you're in love with the acumen, and you're in love with maybe recipe formulation or whatever you want to do, and you want to live out your purpose. So, just as well, even in business, I try to keep a fairly low profile. Podcasts like this are ruining that for me. But
How do you get the dream of apathy? It's something that has been really doing great in the scene of manufacturing, especially when it comes to a tea beverage. It's a product that everyone has been able to enjoy, and the reviews have been really great. I myself have enjoyed it, especially the Chisubi one. What was the dream behind it? What was the purpose of apathy?
first of all, thank you. Thank you for supporting us. And if you've got any viewers who also enjoy our products, we'd love to thank you from on behalf of my team and I, from the bottom of our hearts. You are at the heart of why we keep doing what we do. Otherwise, if you guys were not taking our recipes and our formulas, we would be out of business. So, secondly, to answer your question, this was my dad's passion project. It is my dad's passion project. He is the CEO and I'm the COO. He's very interested in tea. He always has been a tea person and deeply interested in research. So when he found the people who could, assist us in blending tea and spices to this extent, he said, you know what, I'll give this a try. And since then, this is how this came about. So we began with, like you said, the flagship flavor, lemongrass, which is locally known as chisubi. And we have, expanded to a range of 9 other flavors that are now selling in the local market and will soon be international. Yeah. So to answer your question, it's not very much my dream. It's just a dream I have honed and carried along. And I think there's a lesson in that. Sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes you take something that's already working and you make it even better, because everything has the potential to do better. And you may have a really difficult time starting from scratch, because we've been sold a very big facade that, oh my God, everybody must start from scratch. But if you have something you can build on, that in itself is innovation. Innovation can be in the process, it can be in the product, it can be whichever way it is. You don't always have to start something new. And I think this would be my defining trope, that you can build on what is already existing and still make a niche for yourself in the markets.
Do you get to invent all these flavors yourself?
Yes. So for lemongrass, it's my dad who came up with this, which is all credit to him. The flagship and the most popular, but we all the flavors that came after this, we did them together. Yeah.
What's the inspiration behind Appa? Why Appa? You could have gone with like a different whole name.
So it's a mnemonic for Anthea Patrick Abraham. So I'm Anthea, Patrick is my dad, and Abraham is my brother. Um, that's simply it. It's just a mnemonic for that. Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to like the tea, and basically like the general whole uh, industry of beverages, of like food and beverages industry in Uganda compared to like to the global industry, how do you say we are performing as a country?
I would say we are behind. So if you're to look at the uh, 4 stages or 5 stages of commerce, which is where we go from agrarian to raw material, then industrial, then service. Largely, our beverage industry is at the raw material stage, and this is why we pick much less for it on the international market than we could. And this is where companies like ours come in to add value and therefore possibly contribute a lot more tasteful products onto the international markets while bringing all those dollars back home. Like the president always says, every time, for example, I will use coffee. Every time you export raw coffee, you're exporting 7 layers of jobs, 7 layers of employment. So the more we can produce here, the more we can get value for here in terms of GDP, but also employment. So to answer your question, we are at the raw material stage, yet the world is at, I mean, people, yourself, they're making coffee pods, for example, tea pods, all sorts of, with the Keurig machines and this. So we're at a very early stage, and I think that creates a very wonderful opportunity for people who are thinking ahead.
How do we get there? How do we get to that world stage where, we are not just from the beginning or from the start, we are, having like a whole chain of production, and we're being productive in terms of like what we're putting out as an industry, but also the entire value chain is complete for additional gains? How do we get there as a country?
I would say something which I think we all already know, and this is value addition. It comes down to quality and sustainability of what you promise you can deliver on the international markets, because that's what our competitors are already doing. They add value and they continue to deliver. Because the thing about the Ugandan market is, I think we have a very limited understanding of retail markets and the demand that they have, or international retail. So we start out saying, oh yeah, we can be able to deliver this much, and then you're unable to keep it consistent. But if you add value, you make your product of a high quality, and then you deliver sustainably on the international market, and market as aggressively, then this is what would, I think, propel our products to that level. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a report here from a report link. It says Uganda's tea production is projected to reach 68,000 metric tons by 2026. and in the previous year, it was 66,000 metric tons, which was 2021, around 2021, and it was representing 0.5% on a year average growth since 2017. Supplies have dropped by almost 3%. Uganda is known like for a tea drinking company. Oh, I mean, a tea drinking nation. Why are we dropping? We're supposed to be, shooting upwards, but we're dropping.
I think it's attributed to the fact that tea estates are extremely expensive to run. And I think in the past 2 years alone, we had 9 tea estates closing, a lot of which have, the ones which stayed in business have had to get support from the government and the circles and this and that. So it is an expensive industry because of the kind of high capital investment that goes into it. But also, our tea does not fetch the value that it should fetch on the international markets. Because, for example, our black tea is taken to the to Mombasa, where it is blended with Kenyan tea to show up on international markets as Kenyan tea. So we get lost somewhere in the noise. So somewhere between the high cost of running these companies and then fetching low prices for them on the international market, which to us international largely is Kenya, because no one wants to go through the labors of doing that themselves, or for whatever predatory reasons that I won't get into with the Kenyans today. But for whatever predatory reasons, we are not fetching enough, yet the tea estates are expensive, and in terms of admin and even capital.
I mean, I'm looking at the countries that Uganda is competing with here. We have like France, Germany, China, Italy, of course, the UK, Canada. These are all countries that have like systems in place to like compete amongst each other. And when I look at Uganda, even like at a simple product that we take pride in, personally, I've grown up drinking tea because that's like the setup like of a homestead, like okay, a regular homestead in Uganda. You wake up in the morning, you have a cup of tea, either go to the farm or go to the retail store, basically to do any other business. And if we capitalized on like such a system of like, okay, this is like a homestead product, how best can we put systems in place to promote this product even better so that Ugandans can take pride in it, and in the end we can have more production and consumption of this product? Is the challenge the consumers, or the challenge is from the policy makers or whoever is leading this whole system? Where is the challenge?
To answer your question without dwelling on the challenge, I would like to see a Uganda where we leverage destination signaling, like what Kigali or Rwanda has done, um, where we leverage things like this through initiatives that already exist, like Bubu, Buy Uganda, Build Uganda. If a lot more energy was thrown into marketing that slogan and riding on that and creating incentives around that for small business owners or medium-sized business owners who don't have the capacity to market like that aggressively on an international scale, we would see a lot more demand going up. It is one thing for me as Anthea of Upper to go into the international market and push this product all by myself. But if I'm riding under the big wave or the big support of something like Buy Uganda, Build Uganda, if a lot more emphasis was put on it, it would take a lot of effort off my shoulders. So, at the risk of sounding like an advocate, and this is also something that exhausts MSMEs, we're saying we don't want to be the advocates for marketing for this. we came into this to be manufacturers, for example, and you find yourself as an advocate, a marketeer, and this and that and the other, a global marketeer. So if we had things that already exist, initiatives like already exist, like Bubu, be stronger, I believe we would see a much more competitive position on the international markets.
Yeah, because we really need to position ourselves in the international market. I know sometimes we advocate for domestic consumption, but at the end of the day, if we don't get into the markets that, are hugely consuming this product, both the business personnel and the consumers are not going to benefit from whatever product that you're doing. So we need all the systems that would help us to get into the international market. And it goes back to like branding. It goes back to how you tell the story. It goes back because I've been looking through your product line and I love the branding, by the way. Your branding, like when you open your landing page, upper T, it's calming, it's giving I need to get this product immediately. And there are a bunch of flavors in here. What's your favorite flavor that you have in your catalog?
I would say it's the vanilla and the mint. They're very close to my heart. Yeah.
I haven't had vanilla in tea. I've only had vanilla in coffee. I haven't had vanilla like in tea. I should try that.
Yeah, no, it's really, really fragrant and relaxing.
Speaking about upper, you've been able to raise funding for this brand and company by yourself, and for like graduates who are getting out of university, what's the best advice that you'd give them to ensure that if they have a dream, they don't have to wait to start pursuing that dream when it comes to investing into their dream?
I think it's very much a proof of concept thing. For example, when you are fundraising, there are a lot of financiers who will tell you we don't finance companies that have not been in existence for less than 2 years. So it goes back to what I said in the start. Start already, start immediately. At least you can say when you're ready to raise money, you can say, oh no, we were incorporated in 2023 or something like that, so we are eligible for this fund. So at the very baseline, if you have that proof of concept that you've been on the market and you've been trying, there's that. But also something I would like to give out there that I didn't have knowledge of in the start is, if you can start by being so financially organized, um, learn as much as you can about tax, learn as much as you can about retail. For example, this is what I can speak of, it's the industry I'm in, and organize your financing and your, how would I say this, your working capital in a way that you're rarely ever burdened. This would set you apart from very many entrepreneurs who, they go out of the game not because they have bad ideas, but they go out of the game because it was difficult to stay in the game because of poor financial planning. So yeah.
You've spoken about tax right there. I think one of the things that we young adults are struggling with is understanding how tax works. The other day, I received an email from URA and it was talking about like filing my tax returns and all that. And I'm looking at this email and I'm like, how am I going to do this? I have no idea on doing all this. Like, for someone who's like me, how do I go about that? I'm just starting my simple business from scratch. And URA is like, you need to file your tax because you're doing business, you're earning. So for someone who is in that bracket like mine, how would they go about that?
I would genuinely say, and this is not an advertisement for URA, but you walk to the URA tower and tell them exactly this. I was in fact there on a query of my own this week, and I was telling them, the people you have now are really, really good at explaining tax to you. So a mistake we made at upper in the start was, delegating all the tax understandings to the accountant. What we should have done was to understand most of these things ourselves. And nowadays, the people at URA are super friendly. Not even, the word is not friendly, but they are willing to help. You go there, you tell them, you know what, I've just begun. What are my rights? What are my responsibilities? What are the parts of the system I can, take advantage of for my benefit as a beginner? There isn't a single person at that tower who would refuse to help you. And this is going to save you a lot of mistakes. I think when it comes to tax, a lot of us Ugandans have an avoidant thing towards it. We're like, this is so confusing. They're aggressive, they're predators. But if you understand the system, then you can live within the system, if you know what I mean.
So taxes is one of the impediments that I think we have for most young adults, especially in Uganda, that are trying to start up businesses. I guess that's why, like, we have more businesses in Uganda start with brilliant ideas, but they end up failing because we are so, I don't want to say ignorant, maybe that's like a harsh word. Maybe we're so illiterate about some things on how we do business. And then when we get into deep, then we realize, oh man, this is way beyond than I expected. I would rather do something else, you know? So, how do we get more Ugandans to be literate or informed on things they need while starting up a business? The other day, I was watching, I think, Brian Molondo talking about Ugandan creatives who are having like maybe channels, they're having like podcasts, they're having basically they create content and their businesses are not registered, but they want to have like mega deals with mega companies, and there are few who are registered. It's because maybe they never understood that I need to register my business or I need to copyright my brand or anything like that. Not because they never want to do that, because they don't know. So how do we get like more Ugandans to understand these things are necessary, but also they are beneficial to them?
I would say there are a lot of initiatives right now. There are a lot of accelerator programs, business accelerator programs at all levels, um, beginning, midway, advanced. There are a lot of programs that are being run both by the government and not the government, non-government institutions or something of that nature. Um, but also, I would like to believe that on this big, wild, world wide web, the internet, there's a lot of knowledge that one can. Um, and I'm not even, I feel like right now I'm being an advocate for the government, but the one stop center, which is on Plot 1 Baskerville Avenue, you can literally walk in there that day, register at URSB, which is on one of the floors, go to URA downstairs, do that. It has all the arms, just like it's in the name, one stop business center, if you want to set up something. So a lot of that very basic knowledge can be picked from that one place, Plot 1 Baskerville Avenue, which is not very far from where we are recording here. But then maybe to answer your question in a more nuanced way is, I believe one should attach themselves to a business mentor. In my experience, I was lucky. My business mentor was my father. So he taught me all the tricks of the trade and everything I needed to know. Would I have had the same business learning experience if I had not had him as my mentor? Most likely not. So, someone who's seasoned in the industry, probably not in a competing industry with yours, because I mean, that would now be a competitor, but someone who's seasoned and is willing to teach you a few things, because there are things you're going to learn from mistakes, and there are things you really should not be learning from the mistakes that people already made. And it just takes one conversation with the right person who has been in the industry longer than you, or another industry longer than you, to guide you in the right direction. So somewhere between business mentorship and the one-stop business center, um, you would be good to go. And the right business mentor won't turn you down. And again, it comes down to confidence. You can't sit and wait for a business mentor to come find you. You have to go to them and be like, you know what? I think you have things I need to know, or your style of business is what I want to emulate, even though we are not in the same industry. Will you coach me? This person most likely will say, yes, I can coach you, or no, I cannot coach you, but here, talk to this person. They will have information that you will need, or they might be in a position to coach you. So again, it comes down to audacity. Yeah.
Right. Following the thing you've talked about when it comes to going out and look for what you need, especially like maybe mentorship and all that. I have had to read about how you've been able to fundraise for Apathy. It's really incredible. Looking at all these articles about you, you in rooms trying to, talk to investors and all that. Where do you get the courage? That's one. But also, how do you get there? How do you get in those rooms? Because for me, as a person who is maybe just getting out of campus, I have like a big dream of like, oh, I want to start maybe a coffee shop or a boutique or a clothing lane or anything. And I'm trying to get to investors. Where do I find them? How do I find them?
So investors, they work in networks. If you expose yourself to one set of investors, you'll join the community, I would say, within which the other investors who are investing in that line of work or that industry might find you. But then again, just to put us all on the right course, not every room I speak in is a fundraising room. Sometimes you're speaking to impact, and so contrary to what it may seem on the internet, I'm not always fundraising. um so there's that. The second thing would be, you go to investors with something already in mind, because there are certain things they're looking for. A proof of concept. How long have you been on the market? Number two, is your idea unique? Is it scalable? No one is going to invest in something that can only, I mean, they might, but no one can invest in something that can only be sold, let me say, in Kampala, that's only relevant to Kampala, unless it's like a service. But so they're looking for scalability, proof of concept, and that novelty, but also your acumen as a business person. So, you know what people say? A lot of people don't buy people. Sorry, they don't buy products, they buy people. So a lot of investors, because they've had their fingers burned with Ugandan investees, they are very skeptical. So they're investing in integrity of the business owner. They're also investing in the straightness of your books. Like if you're maybe keeping, 4 books of accounts, it's very easy for them to spot this because they've been seeing it for maybe 10, 15 years, and they're just like, they might never get back to you. So one would say, oh, Anthea, how are you ever raising, or how are you ever in rooms to raise? I would say integrity, scalability, proof of concept, and novelty. Yeah.
I want us to talk about something that you treasure a lot, especially when it comes to upper, which is Operation Operation Premium, something like that. But before we go there, I want to understand what agribusiness is, because most cases we use the term agribusiness and it just sounds fancy, but I don't think we understand it. In simple terms, just like explaining to a 10-year-old, how do you explain agribusiness to me?
I don't believe there's anyone who doesn't know what agribusiness is. Maybe it's also, I'm biased because I've been doing agribusiness for the whole of my life. But it's as small as the sim sim balls you eat on the roadside. It's as small as, you know, the cob of maize you're eating on the roadside in the evening. It's just making money out of what you got off the farm. And it's the levels of value addition that vary, but all of it is, if you're getting something from agriculture, from the farm or something of the sort, and then you're selling it on the market, that is agribusiness. Anything that's not Or do they subsistence? Anything that's not subsistence farming is agribusiness. Yes.
Okay, that sounds now so simpler to understand. You talk about local seed money, and you say it's local seed capital. What does it mean?
Local seed capital is seed. I would begin with a definition of seed funding. This is financing that is not entirely impact financing, but it's also not aggressively private equity or venture capital. So it's somewhere in between. It sits at the intersection. So for it to be local means that it hasn't come from, let me say, US aid or wherever outside of it is sovereign to the Ugandan, funds that have made it. I don't know if I've made sense of this, but yeah, it is money raised locally to be invested for whatever reason into African Ugandan companies. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, I I can be able to raise money from a Ugandan investor to invest in my local company or my local brand that qualifies to be local seed capital.
100%. That is local seed capital. If
Um,
founded in Uganda, the company that is investing in you, the investor is registered in Uganda. That is local seed capital. Yes.
okay. I'm getting to learn a lot of things here as my viewers as well. I believe they're learning like a lot of things when it comes to the business terrain in Uganda. And one of the things that you talk about is ethical business, something that many Ugandans, especially the consumer side, would be skeptical about whether we are having ethical business in Uganda. But what is the definition in your own way of ethical business, and are we doing it in Uganda if it's something that consumers or Ugandans need to understand?
I think ethical business really just comes down to that. You are either doing things the right and fair way or you're not. So you're either paying your employees or you're not. You're either filing your taxes or you're not. Um, it comes down to, again, like I said earlier, integrity. If and I know it's a very tough landscape in which we are doing business, but if you find yourself cutting corners to, very great lengths, your customers will feel that and they will eventually go to someone who does business in a more equitable way. If you find yourself not paying your employees, they will eventually, no matter how long they will try to stick around because they have no option, or even if they have an option, they will eventually leave you and you lose good talent that is hard to come by again, and then you're back on the hiring again, which is a really really annoying process to hire people. So ethical business really comes down to how long do you want to stay in the game. If you want to get out of the game tomorrow, fine, go cheating people. But if you move on the concept of you can't cheat the same person twice because you're going to keep doing business with them, you even know it in real life. You can't cheat the same person twice. If you cheat me today and I find out today, will I ever do business with you tomorrow? Oh, hell no. So it comes down to how long you want to do business with this person for, or how long you want to keep your customers before they go to another alternative, how long you want to keep your staff before they go off to another company that will treat them better, pay them better. So ethical business comes down to sustainability and durability and what your aim is. And a lot of businesses here, I would say, a lot of MSMEs do things for the short haul. But if we are to build a business culture that is sustainable and long, that can build generational wealth and really take the Ugandan industry from what it is now to where it can be, we need more people doing ethical business because they're in it for the long haul, because they have that foresight. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. We're going to talk about generational wealth that you just highlighted there. But first things first, let's shift gears. Let's talk about your Mandela Washington Fellow experience. How was it? And what, by the way, before I ask how was it, what is it? Because someone might think, okay, what's Mandela Washington Fellow? What is it? And how was it? How was the experience?
So, the Mandela Washington Fellowship is the most prestigious diplomatic exchange between the US government and the African continent. I believe they also do this in South America. So, but for purposes of this conversation with the African continent, it takes people who they believe could be leaders in three walks of career. This is leadership in business, leadership in civic management. Is it civic management? Yes, and public management. And then you're taken for, I would say, a 6-week training in a university of their tallying with your industry. They match you with a university where you might gain the most value because of what the university focuses on, and you're thrown into this with people who are doing business from all over the continent, people who are enabling business, and people who also maybe want to start businesses, but that's super rare. Yeah, so to answer your second question, it was the most life affirming experience of my life to have been there. It's one thing to do what we do in silo. You feel isolated because business is very isolating. You're operating by yourself. I mean, you've got your employees, but these are not at the level of management at which you are. They're not at the level of problem solving you are on daily. So to have been in those rooms with people, it was like, I would say it's akin to being in a dormitory, a high school dormitory, or in a university setup, but with business people. So every day you walk to class, you get to learn things that you're going to take back home, you know, and implement in your business. But also, it's much less, I felt that the experience was much less about what the classwork, which was really, really amazing. We got to learn concepts like Lean Six Sigma, which is a really expensive, it's how Apple built its wealth. For me, the part that was most profound was the social aspect, getting to see how other business people from the continent behave, not even behave, but how they view success, what they prioritize in their daily aspects of life, but also learning about ourselves as individuals, because the program was very, very focused on self awareness and self improvement as a component of business success. So I would say a lot of it was, yes, the classwork, but a huge chunk of it was, do you know yourself? Do you know your business language? Do you know how you operate in a team? Do you know how you govern your employees? Do you know yourself? Do you know your weaknesses, your strengths as a personality, and how this translates into probably business success or failure? Yeah, and the social element was super, it was amazing. I think also because I never got to complete my university experience because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So I got what one would call the campus culture summer one last time. Here we were just living in a dormitory. Okay, not a dormitory, it was apartment style building, but you get to walk to class every morning, you cook together every evening, you converse, but this time it's not childish conversations, it's, what are your views for the continent, what will you be doing in Ghana to improve, what will you be doing in Uganda, what networks can we leverage. But it was just so refreshing. I've never been in a room where I felt more like I belonged, and by a room I mean the entire community, where I felt more like I belonged than that. It was the most competitive, most comforting room I was in, and life affirming in the sense that I was the youngest in my cohort in Atlanta, Georgia, but yet, maybe of all the 4 major assignments we were given, I came out on top, or a group I was leading came out on top. And this was life affirming because you think, oh, maybe all these people, you're with people from the African Development Bank, you're people from the UN in, financial inclusion, and you're like, oh yeah, they're older than me, they know better. And then you get to class and you're tabling your ideas, and the teacher is like, actually, that's genius. That's exactly what would work on the market. We did a Shark Tank presentation wherein at the end we were meant to win money, and my entire group was saying, oh, let's do something tech and innovation centered. I told them, no, let's do something retail centered. Amazon and companies like these ones that are at the top are in retail, and what we did was retail centered. We made a very good business case for it. We ended up winning the Shark Tank. So there was so many moments for me that were like, I belong here, and I'm as good as the Uganda Mandela selection team thought I was. So it affirmed me as a business person. Yeah.
Should we get a Shark Tank version?
I beg your
A
pardon?
Ugandan Shark Tank version?
Yes?
Should we get a Ugandan Shark Tank version?
I don't know. I would not participate, but yeah, I think there are very many replicas of it. Right now, I would say the NSSF High Innovator for when it was running was a very good replica of what Shark Tank would be. Although Shark Tank is more television, but it mimics what Shark Tank would be.
That's amazing to hear, though. How you experience that and how culture can be experienced and how it can be felt in different ways. I've seen you at least do also like some mentoring and sharing the university students. I think I've seen it at UCU, where you've been asked to be a judge, share here and there. For a student or comparing like students down in like the foreign country, here I'm talking about like UK, US, with students like down in Africa, I'm talking about like East Africa. Let me just zero it to Uganda. If I'm getting out of campus, sometimes maybe I've used a lot of money that I don't have what to start with when I'm out of the working world. What was the first step you took when you're starting upper tier and you're like, I need to save up money to start my dream company or my dream brand? For a young person watching this, how do they do that? What steps should they follow?
Okay, to answer your question, I guess this is where I would like to underscore and say I had a bit of a privileged position coming into business because I didn't have to start from scratch. So I didn't have to save up to start. But then, even in this case, I had to make great deals of sacrifices. I mean, you are in top management, you're always weighing options, you're weighing financial options. So it comes down to do I throw a wedding of 2,500 people, or do I, reinvest this and see this business go wherever it has to go? So I can't speak to what someone who's starting from scratch would have to do because I never had to do this. But that doesn't take away from the fact that I've exercised a lot of financial planning and financial discipline being in top management of our company as a family. um I would say you asked something in there that I wanted to go back to. I would say one difference between the students here and the students abroad in the good universities abroad, because not every university is excellent. I would say here we are churning out white collar workers, someone who's, happy to be an accountant, happy to be a human resource manager, whatever the hell that means. Um, but what universities abroad are teaching is conviction. And this is something I battled with when I was still dealing with students. I would always ask them, who are you and what do you believe in from the core of your heart? And because that forms what you can do forever. And this is a very simple question, but very few people could answer it. Because you go into a class of human resource students and you're like, who are you? And if it wasn't about money, what would you do? And someone can't answer this because it's the conditioning is go. do this for money, the humdrum thing. But if you're looking at Ivy League schools, for example, or Russell Group schools in the UK, you're looking at the quality of students they put out are, first of all, people who are very well researched. So they are good at finding information for themselves. Number two, what they teach, what these universities focus on is conviction. If you're not convicted, you're not going to make anything succeed. If you're just doing anything to go and just pass the years and maybe make some money and then maybe make some money, you have to be convicted. I mean, you have to look at people like Osama bin Laden, and although one may argue that's not a very positive experience, he's an Oxford graduate. No, actually, he dropped out of Oxford. But what does this mean? He was good enough for Oxford. Also, what does this mean? He did whatever he did with a manifesto. If you look at Luigi Mangione, this is the guy who um, ended the life of the United Health CEO. These are people who had a manifesto, even if it's 48 pages. So he believes that he's the one who's going to change the American healthcare system. Osama bin Laden also had his reasons. So what they are teaching is conviction, which is not what we're teaching here. We're teaching followers. If you are not convicted, if you don't believe, like I said in Atlanta, for example, when those guys my Shark Tank team was arguing against my business case, I told them, I believe in my source and I know how to articulate my source. And if you can't believe in your own source and articulate it, you'll do anything that is there to be done. Someone will tell you, come, we'll go do accounting. You're like, yeah, let's do. Let's go into coal mining. Let's go. Let's go into this. Let's go. But you have to believe that whatever you are doing is what you are divinely meant to be here to do. And that way you can even convince people to buy into your journey. So you asked me earlier, how can you convince investors? Because you look them dead in the eye and you tell them, I am going to be the biggest herbal tea manufacturer in the whole of Africa. And someone is like, oh, okay. And how do you intend to get there? And you articulate how you intend to get there. And they're like, oh, actually, it's me and my money that is standing between this girl and her dream of being the leading herbal tea manufacturer on the continent.
Um, so you are someone who is so vocal about geopolitical matters, and we have an election coming up in a few weeks or months. Uh, so if you are to meet someone, whoever is going to win, from what you've just shared, articulating what you want to be passed on, articulating matters, how would you articulate whatever you want or whatever you hope is best for the business terrain in Uganda? How would you articulate to them, and what would they be like? Maybe for three things that you'd want them to do in their first term.
It would be for me to leverage Bubu, Buy Uganda, Build Uganda. I believe this platform has a lot of potential to be something. And again, that goes down to a countrywide international initiative on marketing Ugandan products, and Ugandan services. So leveraging that, but also to create a business environment that is fair and equitable, because we have a lot of traders, going out of business because you have foreigners getting incentives that traders and local investors can't get. So in a way, everybody says, "Oh yeah, Uganda is so robust," but who do the industries belong to? So that's a question for another day now. I don't like to get political, and I won't, for my own safety and for other reasons. But yeah, simply for me, it would go just down to that. Buy Uganda, build Uganda, and support local investors with the systems and the incentives that you put in place so easily for foreign investors.
Uh, Starting up a business and running a business is something that can get to your mental health. What are some of your non-negotiable particulars to deal with your health when you're running your business?
So the level of management at which I am in my company allows me to have freer mornings, but that comes with delegation. I've been able to delegate a lot of the work that would get me into the city early. So I begin my morning with meditation, reading things that have nothing to do with business. Like, for example, right now I'm reading about genetics, and that has nothing to do with business, but it has everything to do with the human experience. And then I will do a workout. I think I do 5 out of 7 workouts a week. And then I will, have a healthy meal and then be able to start my day. And my day doesn't finish until about 6 p.m. So, to answer your question, one non negotiable for me is how I start my day. Owning my mornings sets the tempo for what kind of day I'm going to have. If I begin my morning in a very rushed fashion, definitely by the end of the day, I'm going to be a very snappy person. And I believe this is the same for most business people. Yeah. So if you can own your morning, yeah.
How do you deal with the setbacks in all that? Because most of us are frustrated with setbacks when our mornings or our evenings or afternoons or whatever activity we're doing doesn't go to the way we are planning it to go. And you feel frustrated and take it on to other people, because I've come to realize most cases what we deal with when it comes to our health comes from how we start our days and how we end our days. So if we have setbacks that frustrate us through the day, I'm just wondering, for you as Anthea, how do you deal with that so that it doesn't frustrate you and also doesn't frustrate those around you within the environment that you're in?
I wouldn't say there is like a one size fits all way in which I deal with this. Um, I would say some days you're better at handling it, some days you're not as good. But lately, I would say that I've put into practice a very simple thing, and that's gratitude. At the end of the day, if it's been a super difficult day in business, I shove that somewhere into my mind. I'm like, you know what? Not everything is a crisis. Right now, I'm going to focus on what I can be grateful for. And I'll have a good meal. And then I will make sure to tell someone who knows me and understands me, oh, I really had a good meal. So I go to bed focused on the good meal I had, or focused on, the excellence in which I exhibited in my hobbies, and just I'm focused on that. Or you just take some time out to be grateful. You're like, it's actually such a lovely sunset, it's such a lovely evening, I love the breeze. And you go to bed with that thought. This is what you take to your bed. And then you wake up in the morning. Yes, the issues will still be there, but the outlook on the issues is very different. Yeah.
Do you feel like we have proper systems in the country to help with dealing with mental health issues or fatigue or anything when it comes to mentality? Do you feel like we have what helps business personnel? Because I'm pointing out business personnel because I understand business can be so hectic and hefty to run, and it creates like a whole mode that if you don't deal with it well, it ends up ruining you and ruining those around you. So do you feel like we have proper systems in place to help us manage our mental health?
No, and this is why you should not do drugs. And this is why you should not engage in things that would require you to seek out mental health support, because, yeah, the systems are super broken. Um, but then again, we can't dwell on this. Whereas the systems don't exist, we can't spend our lives whining because we may die before they exist. I believe even in the most broken of places, you can set up your own internal guardrails as a human being or as an organization, as a leader, to say, yes, it's noisy out there and I don't have all the tools, but I'm going to try and do better inside this tiny scope that I have control over. I will be a more balanced leader. I won't yell. I will be a fair leader. I will listen to people's issues. I will. So we don't have so much mental health support around here, but we are in position again with the World Wide Web, which everybody has access to nowadays. There are so many tools. You could listen to any podcast by The Diary of a CEO. This is Steve Bartlett, and you're able to pick up his in conversation with some of the best psychologists in the world, best organizational therapists. You're able to pick up tools that you can then localize to your own organization, and then all of you are able to show up better. I will give you an example. In my company, we noticed that productivity was low because we were working 6 days a week. And we just did one simple thing. We said, you know what? Everybody now works 5 days a week. Your weekends are yours. Be with your family. Fill your cups. Even us, we won't be working because we too should not be snappy when we come on Monday because we worked on Saturday. Productivity, profitability, and overall well-being in the organization went up because now people are able to recharge and replenish before they can come back and give you their all on Monday. So taking out that one working day did amazing more things for us than one would have ever thought it would do. So yes, we don't have the systems, we don't have very robust support, but with the right, there are a lot of I see a lot of business coaches coming up. I don't know if they also tackle mental health. I would not know. But with a lot of tools that we can pick from the internet that are already tried and tested, you can be able to create a small ecosystem of healthy business practice and healthy leadership practices for yourself.
Okay, you mentioned something key in there, whereby you highlighted you changed something to get more productivity in your organization. Now, workers working Monday to Friday. I believe it's something that Ugandan employees need to understand, that being more maybe at work doesn't equate to doing more. Sometimes you just need to be there whenever you needed to be there, and it's important for, I think, Ugandan businesses and employees to put in place. I think we're coming to towards the end of this conversation. I just want to know, for a person like me who's coming out of maybe university, or I just graduated, or maybe it's been like a year since I graduated and I haven't like really gotten something credible to do. How do I brand myself to reach a certain level where someone sees me as something that they could invest in?
Be the most agile, be the best. Everybody is looking out for excellence. You two are looking out for excellence in whoever you meet. No one wants to go with a mediocre. And I hate to say this, I hate to be blunt about it, but be the best. Whatever you think you can have a mastery in, it could be carpentry, it could be whatever. Go study it and try to be the best in it. And even on your journey of trying to be the best at whatever you're trying, people will see you and try to take you there. So I think, I forget who said this, but it serves what I want to express. The credit belongs to the man in the arena. Like I said, start today. Figure out who you are, figure out what you can do for a very long time and how you can monetize it. Figure out your value add to the market. Does the market want this? Or if what you can do is not yet, the market is not yet ready for it, then there's something more basic that you can do, but in that line. Let's say, for example, I will use the example of podcasting and radio. Let's say you want to be a podcaster, but you don't have the equipment for podcasting. Start at radio because that's more basic, and then get where you have to go. But start. The credit belongs to the man in the arena. You have to be, or you can't keep telling people, I have this idea to do this, I have this idea to do this. Go and let someone see you. At least people appreciate initiative. Anybody appreciates initiative. And then when you start, there's a quote that says, to get where you have to go, you have to work twice as hard to get half as much, especially when you're starting without advantages. So you work twice as hard. If it means putting in those hours in the night, if it means dropping your pride and sitting at someone's office and waiting for them to come and say yes to your product, wait for it. Because one thing I will tell you, in business, you're not going to succeed if there is pride. Business and pride don't move in the same. You have to drop that pride, be aggressive, be excellent, understand your niche, be as smart as possible. I wouldn't, there are so many things I could say, but just drop pride and get as obsessive as you can about that one thing that you want to do. Articulate it as much as possible. Everybody you meet, you tell them, oh, by the way, do you know I'm trying this? And you never know what someone will tell you. They're like, oh, okay. They may not be investing in you, but they'll say, you know, there's a new method of doing what you're doing. I just researched about it maybe in Shanghai. And then you get to read this, you're like, wait, can I bring that machine here and do this? And then next thing you know, it has set you on another trajectory. So be open, be articulate, be excellent, be in the arena, and you never know. You never know. It will work out for you.
Nice. What's one thing that young adults need to talk about more openly regarding their health, business, and innovativeness?
Health, business, and what?
What's that one thing that young adults need to talk about more openly regarding their health, business, and being innovative?
I would say the one thing people need to talk about more is a concept in brain studies called neuroplasticity. The mind, the human mind, it has been researched now that we can adapt to anything, right? So when you talk about business or health or innovation, in your health, you can form new health habits any day that you choose. You can wake up tomorrow and you say, I'm never going to bed without exercising, and you'll be a healthy or you will go towards healthiness. In business, you can wake up and say, my scope is bigger than Uganda, and you imagine it to be bigger than Uganda, and you start planning accordingly. So neuroplasticity is like the mind can always change the scale and the programming of how it sees anything. Even in innovation, innovation is creativity. It is being a creative like yourselves in practice, but in another field, in a more tangible field. So if you work on your neuroplasticity and it comes from reading books, remaining creative, participating in sports, doing as many outdoorsy things as possible, as many tactile and sensory things as possible, so that you keep turned on, you keep your creative juices turned on. If you can find a way to keep those alive through sport and hobbies and stuff like this, you make a better human being, you make a more empathetic leader, you make a healthier person, and a more creative innovator through and through, I swear.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great, Thea, what you just mentioned about, because for me and the entire team at Gather Now Network and We Need to Talk podcast, we need to advocate for more better humanity, healthier living, and you just highlighted it there as your ending. And we are starting like a culture right now on the podcast whereby we need to create more need for people to talk about things that they feel like they should be talking about and they don't have the voice or platform to do that. And the culture that we're beginning here today, actually with you being the first guest to jump here on it, is we are creating something that provides a guest with an opportunity for them to share a question they feel like someone else should be talking about more. And as Anthea, what would be that question you feel like the next guest should talk about? Or what's something that you feel like the next guest should be talking about more? What's your question to them?
I don't know. I think a lot of the questions I have as a human being have to do with conformity and group dynamics, and why, for many people in our society, I think I would want the next guest to answer this for me. Why many people in our society never change anything about themselves, even though neuroplasticity has shown us that we can change everything about our reality. Why then people do they conform? Is it weakness of mind? And then why do some people have the innate ability to change everything that they can? So for me, I find this very fascinating. Um, everything around conformity and um, that feeling of stagnation, because I experience it a lot in the social life in Uganda. You meet people who say, but it's like that, we can't change it. But it's like this, it has always been like this. But it's what you do, it's just what you do. And I find this, I would like someone to answer this for me from a perspective of a conservative person, because I'm on the liberal side of things. So the answer is, I don't understand. Just change it. I would want someone to tell me the nuances of why can't it change?
Thank you, Anthea, for coming through the podcast. I really, really enjoyed our conversation, and hopefully, whoever has been watching and listening to this podcast has gotten to enjoy and learn a thing or two, because Anthea shared a lot of nuggets in there on how you can build wealth, on how you can build your brand, but also you can run your startup business and be successful in wherever environment that you're in. So I hope, Anthea, you take what she has shared in good faith. And Anthea, thank you so much for coming through the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Yeah, thank you all for listening. I hope to see you all in the next episode. Have a good one. Bye.